it's August 20th, 2021. I'm Kimberly Jolly from Fat Quarter Shop, and I'm super excited to be with you today. We're going to start off with our Christmas in July. I know it's August, but that's okay. We're still going to call it Christmas in July. After that, I'm going to show you all my progress and all the quilts I've been working on. And then we're going to just do a casual sit and chat with Kimberly. So send in any kind of questions you have. I'm happy to answer them. You can ask me a quilting question or like a personal question, or I don't know, ask me what my favorite cake is. And I have some cute photos to show you of my kids, but I'm going to start off with our Christmas in July. So right here is all the stuff. So it was supposed to release in July, but obviously fabric's been delayed. So now it's going to be like Christmas in August, but really it's going to be Christmas in September because this really starts in September. So from September 7th to October 5th, on every Tuesday, we're going to give you a free pattern and a free video. And I'm going to pop up the dates just so you can kind of see, and it'll kind of give you the shape of the quilt so you can kind of see. And of course, we're letting you see the first part today. Now, the pattern's not going to come out until September 7th, but I'm going to show you, this is similar to Bats and Boos where it's completely free, and I'm going to show you all the information on it. So this is the quilt kit, and what the quilt kit has is the Christmas morning layer cake. It has 1.5 yards of a black Bella solid, and it has the binding. This is the binding, this is the backing, and we also have a backing set. So we picked the backing set to go kind of with the binding. And if you want to use triangles on a roll, which is totally optional, you can use H200 and H300, and those are going to be used kind of throughout. So most of you probably already have these, but y'all always ask, so I have it ready. H200, H300. And what we have released so far is the fabric requirements. So you can go to our blog and you can download our fabric requirements. Now we do have these bags. We're running low on them. They are going to be restocked, but they do go along with this quilt along. And so when we get our second shipment, I'm going to show it to you so that you can see how the bags match. They're called Mad for Plaid bags if you want to snatch up one of the last ones we have. But we made them to match this. There are 3 colors, red, green, and gray. And one thing that we did this time that's a little bit different is I went ahead and used my quilting journal right here. And what I did is I am putting it section by section. So there's 5 rows. So I put row 1, the information on it, and I cut a little swatch. And I did that for the whole thing, and it really helped me when I was sewing to know which reds to pull, which greens to pull, the background. So, and what I did is I just used our finishing tape to stick it down. And it's something I'm thinking about doing for other stuff, just because it really kind of helped me grab the fabrics I need and not use the incorrect fabric, because sometimes I do that. So yeah, so we've got the quilt kit, the backing set, triangles on a roll is totally optional. Now this is going to be similar to Bats and Boos. Once the kits are gone, they're gone. So if you're interested in doing this sew along, it's a limited run. We've already sold a lot of them. We did with Bats and Boos release that early. This time we held it back, hoping that the sales would go a little bit slower, so hopefully they'll last through the sew along, but I can't promise anything. And so if you have any questions on all the trimmings, let me know. This is a beautiful layer cake. I'm going to kind of flip through it, and I'm going to show you the quilt. I'm going to only show you the first row. The size is 33 by 38. And it is layer cake friendly. So someone is asking if 12 fat 8s would work. So, you know, it might work, but you're not going to have as much variety, but it might work. I would kind of wait until the patterns come out and kind of, you know, look through and see what you think. And then I'm going to kind of hold some of the questions until the end. If you have specific questions on sew-alongs, though, I'll answer those throughout, and then I'm going to save all the questions to the end so it goes a little bit better. So very excited about this, and I'm going to show you the first row. And again, fabric requirements free, and the pattern's free, so you could use any layer cake you have from your stash. So this is the binding and the backing, and I think they look really good. Sometimes if you pick a binding and a backing that are the same print, it looks really good, and that looks, I love it. So this one was quilted by Gina Tell, and if you want, she can do the same quilting for you. We did little gingerbread men. Now there are no gingerbread men in the pattern, but so I just want to say that up front, there's no gingerbread men, but we just did that because we thought it was cute. Okay, so I'm gonna take that off, and then I'm gonna move to our first sew along that I've been working on. This is Bats and Boos. So this is the same concept as all the trimmings. And Bats and Boos is completely free pattern. So you can use the fabric from your stash just like you can with all the trimmings. And with Bats and Boos, you can download the fabric requirements, and you can also download the first 3 blocks. Next Monday will be the finishing, and then that one will be complete. And I love that you guys have been making lots of different colors, and some people have been adding purple. So with these, we love these sew-alongs because it's a way for us to give back to you as being a customer, and you know, get you to know that we're trying to provide a lot to you. So this block is beautiful. This would work really good on just like a table, like if you wanted something to put a candle on top of at your home or something. It has a nice spot where if you put it down, you would just see the star around it. Like if you had a like a candle or a warmer or something like that. Is the kit starchable? So we're gonna ask one of our staff members because I don't know the answer. I have a couple of other Christmas layer cakes. Can I use them? Of course, you can use anything you want, and all you have to do is look up the fabric requirements for all of that. And I'm gonna look up the question on starching. And someone is asking if Christmas Morning Red is showing true to color. So I'm gonna look at that again. So again, Bats and Boos, come back next Monday for the finishing. And we not only have a free pattern, we also have a free video. So let's see if it's reading true. I think it is. Okay, it's looking a little bit darker on the screen. In real life, it's a tiny bit darker. But to me, it's a little more red and a little less orange. It's pretty though. It's definitely, this has been the favorite Christmas collection out of all of that. And then someone is asking how many pieces are in the layer cake. There's 42. I don't think you use all of them. The next thing I've been working on is Pat Sloan's Summer Soiree, and this is a free mystery on her site. So I'm going to show you this block, which is block 7. It's called Beautiful Tunes. And I have changed this sew along to be 6 inches for myself because I don't need any big quilts. Now she's making hers with 12-inch blocks. She's using figs and shirtings. She's using fat quarters from that background, and then 2.5 yards background. I decided to use kitty corn because I love the fabric and just hadn't come up with something to make with it, and I thought it would be really fun. I will be doing the same setting she's doing. I'm just condensing the size. And on this one, I used H300 for these big triangles, and I only needed 1 little square. So even if I just need 2 triangles, I will still use the paper. And I'm going to show you her block, because with her block, what I want to show you, and I think I can if we zoom out a little bit, I'm going to make mine go the same way. So she used 4 fabrics, and I decided to just use 2. And it was because when you're looking at the kitty corn fabric, there's not a ton of different fabric colors. And I really wanted to use these checks. And the only way for me to use the checks was in a block like this. And so that's why I kind of did that. And again, this one's called Beautiful Tunes. It is designed by Pat Sloan. Her website is I Love to Make Quilts. And I'm going to show you next the American Quilter's Stitch Along, which is another free sew along. And this is block 11. And this was released yesterday. I would say this is one of the more challenging blocks in this series. So if you want to join us in this, you would go to lisabonjing.com, and there will be 20 blocks. The quilt will finish at 67 by 70. And the reason it's so hard is these are tiny, tiny, tiny flying geese. So they measure 1 by 1.5 unfinished, and they measure 1/2 inch by 1 inch finished. So my tip would be on these is to make them bigger and trim them down. And I did, let's see, I did press open because with so many small seams that would have been almost impossible to not press open. But the rest of it I pressed to one side. So you can see that when you're pressing, you don't have to do everything the same. And one thing that I did do here is I used our square and square paper, the 2-inch finished, but I fussy cut this flag. And I really wanted it to be a little bit tilted more this way, but it's okay. At the end, nobody will know. So I'm trying with this sew along to use the same exact fabric she has here. I'm trying. But this one's gonna go to a friend. I love this one. I can't wait to finish it, but it's gonna be a Christmas gift. So she might be watching. The next one is Sampler Spree. Now this one is not a free sew along. It is a book by Susan Aki. And this is the book. And she has been doing a sew along, and I have been sewing along also by color with her. Now I'm about a month behind, but that's okay. I am totally fine with that. I'm still gonna finish. So this one is the red block from last week that I hadn't finished, and I just kind of made it work with one of the block lock rulers, and it took me forever. So that's like a block that I'll probably never make again, or I'll eventually make paper for this point because it took me 3 or 4 tries to get it right. And nothing should be that hard in quilting, right? It should all be fun. So this is my red block from last week. And then this week's color is navy blues. And when you see my blocks, you're gonna see, and I'm gonna take all of these home today because I need to work on the next one. I didn't use navy, I used lots of colors. And I don't even think I used navy at all, in fact. So I used kind of grays. So I'm just going to show you the blocks. This one I did use the Kite square and a square ruler by Block Lock, and that ended up working really good because when you cut your pieces, you cut 3 pieces, and when you put it together, then you put a Block Lock ruler on top and trim around. And so I was a little bit nervous about using that ruler because I'd never used it, but I think that's something that we will work on getting into foundation paper. This one is Chisholm Trail. So this one's Kite, number 6. This is number 18. And on this one, I used triangle paper for my half square triangles. And I use flying geese paper for these. And all of these blocks I am pressing open. This one is called New Album, and this one I use square and a square paper. And so I have figured out a way at home to make the square and a square paper work with pressing open, but it does involve ripping the paper off before, so you don't have the cut lines. So it's definitely more advanced, but that's okay. I'm making it work. And I don't know why I have all these gray. Maybe I read the thing wrong when I was doing it. This one is called Donuts. And on this one, it's kind of a inverse working with color where you've got a light ring and a dark ring. And this one, I don't know why, but it kind of took me a while. But I did chain piece these and then trim down. And you know, it looks funny right now because you can see that on the edge, but that's going to be your seam allowance. And so that's something where when I first started quilting, I would see that and think my block was wrong, but once you get your seam allowance on there, it will go away. And it takes me about 8 hours to do all of these blocks, which is far too long. This one is, I wasn't really sure. I kind of thought about changing this one when I was working with it. It would have been really easy to just do that as flying geese, or, well, not really flying geese, but the method you would use where you just do square and a square. I went ahead and kept it the same and used H150. It's called Dutch windmill, but if I had to do it again, it might have just been easier to just do flying geese. This one was super fun and easy. This one I used H225 for these, and I did chain piece this and these little sections and then trim it down. This one came out really good. I was a little bit worried about, you can see that when you press open, you've got nothing left because it's 1/2 inch finished. So if this would have been off, I would have had too much bulk back here, but it ended up good. And you can see I am trying to work in this fun background so that there's a little bit of a breakup of this one. And I think this one is 9940 pewter. This is Lori Holt fabric called Stitch. Now this one came out a little bit wavy. This one I kind of cheated. So let's see. I made this normal, but then here I made my red wider and my gray wider, and then stuck a 6.5 inch, the CGR6 ruler on top and trimmed around. So it looks a little wavy, and it might look wavy because I kind of cheated a little bit. And when you do that, you can kind of center this square in the ruler, and super easy. But yeah, that's kind of, so you can tell it's perfectly square, whereas the others are not. This one is called Goblets, and I don't love this one. This one, I don't even know. I just think that I should have just made this after I'm done with my square and a square paper and done 3 squares. And then these are corner squares, and I think I used square and a square paper for this. Let's see. No, I didn't. I think this is too small. But if I had to redo this, it would have been a lot easier to do this a different way. I've never made a block that looks like that, but I think it's supposed to look like wine goblets that are coming out. I'm not sure, but it looks kind of funny to me. And I think it might look funny. I think I did too much with this fabric. I think it would look better if I would have just had this fabric. I think it's a little too busy. And so it's fun to look at your blocks after, so you can kind of, see what you could do in the future. I'm just going to switch some out. Now this is a background fabric. It's more of a medium, and I've been trying to use it. So I finally was able to put it in the center of a square. Now it's not perfectly centered when you look at it on camera. And these are flying geese, and this is half square triangles. It wasn't hard at all to use because I used our paper for both. And I guess the hardest thing is just to make sure you've got the browns together and the greens together, if that makes sense. And with something like this, a tip that you can do for accuracy is you could cut, and I 100% did this, is make the outside of the square wider, and then whatever it's supposed to be unfinished, use a Creative Grids ruler to trim it down. And then that gets your center perfectly square. And then this one was fun because I was getting to the end and I needed an easy block. So these are the same size, and this one was super easy, so it's always nice to have something easy. I guess I did these as grays instead of navies. I don't know what I was thinking, so I'll have to do blues another time. One thing I did here though is I made this longer, and then when I trimmed it down, I could trim from here to here, and at least the distance from here to here is exactly 6.5. So I do a lot of changing up the patterns, and I think that's what one of the questions I get a lot is, how do I stay motivated and how do I stay going? And that's part of it, is coming up with things that work for me, that just like, oh, it's like a little cheat, it's a way to cheat, or it's a way to save time, and it just really, I don't know, that's how I stay motivated, I think. And then this one was the last one, and it was fun because it was easy. Because, you know, when you're doing the blocks, sometimes you just need an easy block. And what's great about this one is I was finally able to use this big print. So this is a bigger, like a busier print in her collection. Now, if you would put that, something like that here, it would get totally lost because you would end up just seeing the white. So when there are big pieces, use that opportunity to use fabrics you otherwise might not need, you might not be able to put in a quilt like this, because so many of these pieces are small. So always take the opportunity to use a fabric like this. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer some of the questions that came in about sewing only, about these little sew-alongs only. Will starching the layer cakes be okay? And we got the answer on that. 2 people asked, yes, you have enough to starch the layer cake and the background. Another thing that I did want to mention is, as I've been doing these blocks, I'm doing them by color. And what I'm going to do today, because next week is pinks and corals. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to plan my blocks that I'm going to sew this weekend. Well, what I'm going to do is take all of my blocks, I have about 50 or so done, lay them on the ground, and I'm going to assess and see which colors I haven't used or which print I haven't used very much, and really challenge myself to use those prints so that when my quilt is done, it has an even look of color and an even kind of composition to it. What yardage do you need for the Americana quilt? You need the American Gatherings Fat Quarter Bundle, which is 40 pieces, and that's now sold out. But if you can find it somewhere, that'd be great. And 4 yards of 1040-42. And I do want to also mention that Lisa is raising money for Hogs for Heroes. So definitely donate to that if you can. We donated $750. Okay, so now I'm going to show you something else that came in Monday. So I wasn't able to show it to you on Friday, but I'm so excited. I think you're gonna love it. And if you pre-ordered, I wanted to be able to show this to you. So when you order Lori Holt's planner, it's gonna come, sorry, can you get my tea? Sorry, my throat is dry. I think I drank too much tea. So when it comes, it's gonna come packaged like this, where it's protected on the front and the back. And you can save this box. It's going to come shrink wrapped also. So I just wanted to show you guys, and if you want to see a close-up of this planner, check out last week's video. And I'm going to kind of show you. This is linen. This is actually fabric. So this is an actual fabric on the outside of the planner. And then the next thing I'm going to show you is a pop-up image of our video of the week. So what we're doing is, we have so much content on our channel that you guys might forget about. And so we kind of want to bring back some of our videos that have been popular. And this one is classic and vintage, so that block pattern is completely free on our site. If you wanted to turn it into a quilt of some type, we have 4 sizes, and we do have a paid pattern for that. But you can find all of that on Fat Quarter Shop. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about something that we're going to be doing in the future. So we, last week, we went to my house, and we went through the whole house, and we brought like literally a truckload of quilts. So I took every quilt from my house. Now, you have to remember, I sold like 50 quilts about 4 years ago on eBay. Just because I was like, oh, I'm moving, I need some money, and I don't have any room for all these quilts. So even though I've sold a lot of my quilts, I still had a ton. And what we're going to be doing, it's going to be a little bit different, and some of you might hate it, but I think a lot of you are going to love it. What we're going to do is we have all the quilts here. Some of them were gifts to my children from other people. Some of them I've made. Most of them there will be no pattern because these are older quilts. One of the quilts is like 21 years old. So these are going to be things that are just in my house that we enjoy, that the kids use. A lot of these my kids use. This one has to go back because this is on Kevin's couch. So he kind of has a little, I don't want to say like a man cave, but he has an office with his computer, all his guitars. He's probably going to die that I told y'all that. A couch and a TV. And so like when he wants to play guitar, he plays it in there. But he has this quilt, and he is wondering where it is, so I need to bring it back. But I want to talk a little bit about the quilt, when I made it, and this is something that we're going to be adding each week. Just remember, these are things that for you to enjoy, but not necessarily, there's not going to be a pattern. There's not going to be a way for you to buy the fabric even, but I just think it's going to be so fun. And then I'm hoping when I take them back that I can build some cubbies and organize my quilts, because literally they were everywhere. And one thing that is funny, I shouldn't even tell the story, but when we were going through the quilts, some of them had pee on them because apparently my dog peed on them like 5 or 6 years ago before we moved, because now he has to wear a diaper. I know that's gross, but you know what? It's the truth. He's a pug and they're horrible at that. I don't know if I would ever get another pug just because of that. Anyway, we took them to the dry cleaner and it's all fixed. So I'm very happy that I realized they needed to be fixed. It's all fixed. Super excited about that. The first quilt I'm going to show you, I do think I have shown before, but I'm going to show it again. It was made in 2002, so that's 19 years ago, right? Yeah, 19 years ago. And I designed it in an electric quilt, which is like just a plain simple software. And what I did is I cut 2.5 inch squares for the whole quilt. So I calculated, and this quilt has 1,116 2.5 inch cut squares. Now when you look at this quilt, you're going to notice that it would have been a lot easier to do with big rectangles and space, and I wouldn't have needed to do the squares. But the reason I did it this way is I really wanted the quilting to be crosshatch, and by having those squares, my quilter was able to follow the squares. Now this was quilted by Judy Wilson, and it was done 19 years ago. So I'm going to show it to you, and then there is no pattern. And if there was a pattern, I couldn't even sell it because it would be copyrighted. So Kevin is a huge Longhorn fan. And so this is UT. So we'll show that. We'll show kind of the center and then the bottom. And then I will show on the table the squares. Okay, so let me drop this on the table and then I'll show you kind of what I meant. And I'll have something to drink. So this fabric, I have no idea what SKU it is. I know it's a Kona because there was not a Bella Solid at the time. Bella Solid didn't even exist. So I do know that these are Kona fabrics, and if we zoom in, you're gonna see the crosshatch hits every single square. Let me turn it straight. So this is how it is straight, and so my quilter, and not only did she do that, she used white thread here and orange thread here that matched. And so I remember her having to buy an orange thread for that. On the back, let's see what she did. I don't remember what we did on the back. But Kevin uses this quilt. Oh, it's great. Okay, so we just used orange on the back and the white thread is there, and that's fine. So you can see where she used white thread and then orange thread. And then these were the labels that I used to use. So this was before Kevin and I were married, about a year before. So it has my maiden name. Some of these quilts we realized have my phone number on them, so we're gonna have to be careful when we show those, because I was like, why is my phone number on the back of my quilt? That's so odd. And on the border, we didn't do any quilting. I do kind of want to show how thin it is though. This is 80/20 batting, and after 19 years, there's not much batting there. It does, I don't want to say it goes away, but this has been used, he's used it for 19 years. It's been washed and washed and washed with, now when I wash this, I don't let him wash this, I wash this. We use a color catcher in the washer, and when I dry it I hang dry it either like on we have like those black wrought iron fences, and so I'll just put it over there, like over the fence, but I'll put a big sheet over it because you can wash a sheet easy. So you just put a sheet over it, and then that's why it doesn't have that crinkled washed look, because I try to not put it in the dryer. Now on this, I did press to one side, and I can tell, see, you can see the seam there and there. You can see the seams. So that is our little story time today. I'm going to show some pictures of my kids. So they went back to school this week. That is Christopher. Now Christopher has to be at school at 7:25. So when I'm dropping him off, the other 3 children are waking up because they go to school at 8:50. So it's kind of crazy. So that's Christopher. He is in 4th grade. And then my next picture is Emma, and then that's Will and Peyton. So Emma is in 9th grade, and Will and Peyton are in 6th grade. Now when you have twins, kind of the thought at the time when I had them in elementary school, now I don't know what the thought is now, because I don't know, because my kids are not that little, but they did try to keep the twins in separate classes all the time. That was like a thing that the schools always wanted to do. So I was hoping that in 6th grade they would have some joint classes, and they don't have any. So that's interesting. But they do have their lockers right next to each other, and they're so cute. And then the next photo is on back to school. Back to school was Monday, and it was a very set time where you only had, I think it was 35 minutes to get in, meet your teacher, and leave, because they did each grade separately. So he's going in 4th grade. Well, I forgot the school supplies, so he literally, I made him carry them, because I was like, I am not about to carry those school supplies. So he carried them all the way to his room, and we literally got there just in time to drop them off. So that was kind of fun, and that was on Monday. So they're back at school. And it's very interesting because they're in 3 different schools, and the schools are all at least 20 minutes apart. So it's definitely going to be interesting getting them to school and picking them up. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to that. I'm going to give thank yous to my super chats. Piggy wants to thank Twyla Stone, Pam Chamberlain, and Catherine Breton. So thank you so much. And now we're just gonna sit and chat. I'm gonna just answer random questions. And we are going to be talking about a new sew along next week that I'm gonna be joining in with Sherry McConnell from A Quilting Life. So we will be talking about that sew along, because I'm always trying to support designers, and I got some information on that today. So I'm going to be talking about that next week. Okay, so Twyla Stone said, I have a question about layer cakes. How much measurement variation can there be in the package? I saw one with many of the pieces only measuring 9.75. Is that to be expected or a faulty cut? So I don't ever think they're exactly 10 inches, even though I would love them to be. I don't think any of them are. They're usually closer to 10 by 10 though, so I would think that would probably be faulty. Now, I never make a quilt unless I can starch. So I always starch my pieces. So if my layer cake, if I need to use the full layer cake, I will waste money and buy a fat 8th bundle. Mimi Frazier, good morning. Is the Christmas cross stitch beginner friendly? Absolutely. Actually, it's super easy. I love your sew-alongs, so thank you. Candace says that she loves my nails. Thanks. I'm going to show y'all what I'm doing now. It's a new thing. So what I'm doing is I'm doing 5 colors ombre, and I did it with pink last week, and my daughter was like, that does not look good. You need to do more of a color. So I did this color, and she approved of this, so that was good. What is my favorite binding pattern? Like, is it gingham, polka dot, solids? So I just want my binding. Sometimes I will want it to stick out, and sometimes I don't. But when I'm looking at a binding, I usually pick from the collection. I think polka dots are nice, ginghams are nice, or anything that doesn't have too much movement and is a small scale print. So I would say for binding, choose a darker or lighter small scale print. But the trick is to make sure that whatever you pick for your backing has a tint of the color that's in the binding, or it somehow flows together. So I always do pay attention to the backing, the front, and the binding color. Oh, so Val asked me what my favorite cake is. Probably carrot cake. Life as a Mom said, I've been trying to use the flying geese paper only. What could I be doing wrong that my finished square is coming out too small? So if you cut exactly on the solid lines, it should come out exactly to that size. So I'm not sure the answer to that one. Crafting a Plan Life, can you explain how to make AQL, FG bigger and cut them down? What is AQL? How to make the Quilting Life bigger?
Flying geese.
A Quilting Life flying geese.
From the house block last week.
Okay. Oh, from the house block last week. I think that just comes with experience. I don't think I could answer that exactly. What I do on that though is I use sometimes, if I'm going to use, I either use my paper, which is the Flying Geese paper, and that comes out exact, or I'll use the Eleanor Burns Flying Geese ruler and just cut it down, and that's how I do it. Lorene says, in a piece block, when you cut your pieces a little bigger, do you do that for the center block? Depends. It kind of depends. I'll do it anytime that I can, anytime that I think I can make it work, I do it. Anytime. And I'm trying to go in order of the order that the questions came in. Edna is asking, she's doing the Bright Side quilt with her stash of fabric, and background fabric is different than the sashing. Should I change the fabrics to match? I can't even remember what that quilt looks like, so let me kind of try to figure out what that quilt looks like, and then I'll answer the next question. Can you demo how you're pressing open with the foundation papers? Yes, eventually. Which block lock rulers are you using in your sew sampler blocks? So I used the block lock kite ruler that was 2.5, and I used the square in a rectangle or square in a something, I can't remember exactly, ruler. Do you girls think that I'm still on time to start a Quilting Life stitch along this year, or am I too behind? So she's gonna have 2 this year. The first one is the free one that comes out every month. So if you caught up, you would just need to do 8 blocks to catch up. So I think it's doable. They're very easy. But she's also gonna be doing a quilt along using her Together pattern and her brand new fabric. Okay, let me see this. Okay, so Bright Side. Oh, I think it's fine if they're the same. I think it's totally fine for them to be the same. I'm still new to quilting. If I'm in love with a fabric line and want to get enough to do a quilt for a later date, what fabric should I order of each SKU or pre-cuts? So I would buy either a fat quarter bundle or 2-layer cakes and maybe 6 yards of a background, maybe 3/4 of a yard of a binding, and maybe 6 yards of a backing. Does anyone know the name of Kimberly's favorite background, the white on white? Okay, so it's 20708-36. We had that reprinted. We sold out in less than a month. So you guys kind of bought way more than I thought. I thought that was going to last us 6 months. So I've ordered more. It will be here in 75 days. So thank you so much for your support on buying that. But I am so sorry. I had no idea you guys were going to love that so much. But I did get a bolt, so I'm excited about that because I'm going to definitely use that in some upcoming stuff. Holly Martin is asking, what size needle do I use for piecing? So I use 80/12, and sometimes I will use the titanium needle, but most of the time I just use plain Schmetz 80/12. I don't do anything funny. What is my go-to aurifil thread? Will I be using it on all the trimmings or a different one? So my go-to thread, I use Color 2000 all the time. In all the trimmings, I used aurifil 2600, and that is a light gray. When you have a black or really dark background, you need to use a slightly darker thread, but it's not too dark to interfere with the white fabrics. And if you ever want to know, what you can do is sew a seam, and then well, that's good. Sew a seam and do this. Can you see your thread? If you can see your thread, you shouldn't be able to see it. Now, you can't see my thread at all, but look at my stitches. You can't even see my stitches. I stitch with such a small, let me try to find one I stitch with such a small seam allowance. Like, that is tiny. We'll zoom in if we can, but that's like a tiny, now, you don't want to have to pull those stitches out because they're tiny. Like, that's like a 1.2, 1.5 stitch length. Because I don't want to have to pull it out, but I don't want to see it on the front. I cannot stand if I see a quilt and can see the thread. It drives me nuts. Gail said, can I give us any idea when the alternate backing for the red and white Lori quilt? Could you give us an idea on an alternate backing for the red and white Lori quilt other than making our name on the backing? Okay, yes, what I did something different. Is my quilt back? Okay, so when I get my quilt back from Gina, I will show it. I didn't do my name. I did a block on the back, I think. I can't remember exactly what I did, but I did not do my full name because I think it's great and I would have loved to, but I have to know my limits. I do have 4 children. I do work a lot, and I just did not have time to do those names. We did show it in a previous live stream, but I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but Gina Tell has it, and so when she gets it done, I'll show it. Can you talk more about leaders and enders? I'm working to make something with my scraps. So I don't do that. Lori does that, and Lori has talked about it in some of her videos. And a leader and an ender is something that you start with, like a little scrap of fabric, so that your thread doesn't get tangled up in your stitching. But with my Juki, I've never had I use a Juki TL. What do I use? Juki TL 20-10, something like that. I've never had a problem with my threads looking bad, so I don't use leaders and enders. Lori sometimes will just sew together some different squares to save for other projects. It's just not something I do. What is Hogs for Heroes? I haven't heard of it. So Hogs for Heroes, I don't know much about it, but what I know is that they are an organization, and the one that Lisa is benefiting is in Wisconsin. She is a motorcycle / Harley rider, and what they do is they take veterans and they give them a motorcycle to help them through like PTSD and things like that. Mary Ann said, will the August Sew Sampler be on time? Yes, it will. So I'm so happy that I can finally say yes to a question. And just keep sending your questions, and I'm going to answer them, and then when I'm done with the questions, we'll be done. But so the more questions you ask, the longer I'm here. What size print do you recommend for the Oklahoma block from your retro series? Road to Oklahoma. Okay, let me look. What size block? Okay, I'm looking at the quilt. Okay, go back to the fabric. Go back to the question. What size print? So I would use a small scale print. I would use either solids, or I would use something that has just a tiny, like a little tiny X, like B backgrounds, not B backgrounds, B cross stitch would be good, or essential dots. Grunge would look really good with that. Victoria's asking, do I have a replacement fabric instead of the black for the Christmas stitch along? Black is not my favorite. So if you're going to use something, I would use something like a gray or a cross weave. It's not going to work with a light fabric unless you change your block fabrics. But we kind of just did one. I can't think of one off the top of my head. And you do have enough to starch the layer cake. My identical twin cousins used to swap places in classes on occasion. Do my boys do that? No, but my boys, they don't look alike, they don't act alike, and they have their grades totally different. So I will say probably the hardest thing as a parent, because I think I'm a pretty awesome mom. Actually, I think I'm pretty awesome. The hardest thing ever was when we always have wanted them to be their own person, so they don't dress alike. I mean, they'll switch clothes, but I've never dressed them alike. I've always treated them as their own person. But I don't think I realized that they were going to be so different. I mean, they like different games. They like different shoes. They like different clothes, everything about them is different. They are the best of friends, though. I will tell you, they are the best of friends. But I did get a little bit upset with them because I said, did y'all sit together at lunch? And they said no. And I'm like, and Will said, oh no, Peyton just walked right by me like he didn't even know me. I'm like, what? Why would you do that? And Will was like, I wanted to sit by myself, and he knew it. I was like, Will, you sat at lunch by yourself. He's like, yeah, I like to be alone. I was like, gosh, I wonder who that sounds like. But they get along great. They're just so different. And as a parent, it can be hard because you have to parent every kid differently. And I have 4 kids, and I have to parent all 4 of them differently. Emma and Christopher can be a little bit alike, but when I say a little bit, it's a little bit. The sun doesn't fade the quilt. Well, when I let it dry, I'm just leaving out there a little bit. And we have several quilts in the office that are hung, and they are hit by the sun, and they're completely faded. And I'm just leaving them on the wall because I figure they're already faded. Just let them fade a little bit more. So I probably will, when they come down, put artwork up instead of quilts, because I do have some quilts that are completely faded. We could maybe show one of those in our back, our little throwback section. Someone told me that when you press the seams open, it weakens the stitches. Is that true? It is. And so when I press open, I use that tiny stitch. And your seam will not pop because I'm using like a tiny, tiny stitch. It's not going to come out. I'm in the UK. What is the school supply box full of? Here we only need to provide pens and paper. Oh, that box is like $110, and I have 4 kids. So what they do is, first of all, it raises money for the PTO. So I'm good with that. But my boys don't care, like they don't want to go to Target and pick out the stuff. They could care less what's in there. They don't care what color it is. They're totally not picky. Now Emma, that's a whole nother story. She likes to pick, but what it has Kleenex boxes, because everyone has to bring a Kleenex box for the school, like for your room, your classroom. It has paper towels for the classroom. It has like a bunch of stuff for the teacher, so the teacher doesn't have to buy it. And then it has like folders, paper. But I will say it doesn't even have pen and pencil. So when Kevin and I went through it, because what you're supposed to do before you start school is like label it. And then like one of my sons is in art, so you have to pay $25 to be in art. One of my sons is in band, you have to buy or rent the instrument and then pay all these fees for all this stuff. They're in PE, you have to buy all the clothes. Kevin the other night, and when we went to back to school, it was cash only, and we were like, oh, that's nice because we don't usually have cash. We luckily had just enough, and they wouldn't take change. So anyway, Kevin was like, every time we get in a line, we're paying money. I was like, yeah, I know. So anyway, it didn't have pen or pencils. So that was kind of interesting that it had all the paper, all the notebooks, but no pen and pencil. So we had to add those. Is there a trick to keep Is there a trick to keep loosely woven fabrics like Moda cross weave from fraying? No. Now, I have been using, now I need to finish the quilt, but I did a quilt that was a block of the month that's like 3 years ago from Fig Tree, because I do buy from other stores and make other things. And I starched the fabric and it still frays. I just try to, when I'm pressing, I try not to press too much or just try to be a little bit more gentle with it, but it still frays for me. What weight do I use on the top and in the bobbin? I use 50 weight, and I did think of a really good idea. I'm almost out of bobbins, so I'm going to teach one of my kids how to wind bobbins, and I'm going to have them wind bobbins today because I'm going to be like, who wants $5 for Roblox? Because they want Roblox money or Robux or something. I don't know, some game they play. How is Piggy? Isn't he lonely since the kids returned to school? Yes, but he goes to daycare at the end of the day. So he goes from like 12 to 4 to daycare just to get out. But the one thing about my dog, which is really interesting, is he likes to sunbathe. I'm not joking. He goes out and there's a certain spot. It's actually got a dead spot in our grass. And he sits there and he just like lays and he likes to be outside. So he's okay. Is my EQ version 8? Oh my gosh, I have like a super like 6 or 7 year old electric quilt program. You said the cleaners fixed my quilts. Did they dry clean or launder? I actually don't know. We just said, can you please get the pee out of them? And they did. And they did it in like 2 days. It was insane. So will you need all of the layer cake? No, you will not. What is my favorite iron? Okay, so my favorite iron is the Aliso in the yellow. And those have been out of stock for 1.5 years. We're still trying to get more. I haven't received an iron from them in ages. Now I know if you pre-bought one from them, they did ship some out. So I'm almost wishing I would have pre-bought one. They don't have the best warranty and they do tend to break a lot. But I have found that since I've been using spring water in them instead of distilled water or water from the sink, that I haven't had any issues. Do I use spray starch on my fabrics? Yes, I starch everything. This morning, so I'll tell you what I did this morning. Christopher had to be at school at 7:20, so I took him, came home, starched 3 things, left, took Emma to school, got here like 10 minutes, well maybe 15, 20 minutes before live stream. I made her get to school super early. She was not that happy. But Kevin has found that, because the boys, the twins, need to be dropped off at between 8:30 and 8:50. Like they have to be in their class at 8:50. And it's not a small school, so it's not like you can drop them off at 8:50. I mean, they need a good 10 minutes to get to their different classes. But Emma also needs to be at school at the same time. 30 minutes apart. Real interesting. So it was funny. I saw like on Facebook another mom in our neighborhood was like, I have 3 kids in three different schools, and because our school district doesn't have buses right now, so even if they rode, there's not even an option to ride the bus if they wanted to, because they don't have any bus drivers. Kathy said, I struggle with quarter square hourglass. Oh, we're not going to do foundation paper for that, but I'm going to give you a tip. Cut your pieces. So you make those out of squares that you cut into triangles, cut those pieces 1/2 inch bigger, piece your hourglass, and use the Creative Grids square ruler on top to cut it down. And just make sure that the edges of your ruler touch the diagonal stripes, because hourglass is easy to get accurate doing it that way. Lynn said, do I have any advice when sewing my blocks together for a large quilt? The weight always seems to give me issues. Agree. So when you do a row, sew together half the row, sew together the other half, join the pieces. Try to do little steps and always pin in the center. I always use pins when I'm putting my quilt together, and I try to get as much of the weight of the quilt on the table. And if you need help with that, you can either have, like, I used to have my kids hold the weight, but then I discovered that if I just put the weight on top of the table, it would work just as good. Elise is asking, there is someone that uses Creative Grids Flying Geese ruler. It's easy to use. Is it accurate? Oh, there is someone that uses Creative Grids Flying Geese ruler. It's easy to use and it's accurate. I have only used it a couple of times. I learned with Quilt in a Day ruler, and so if I already have a ruler that works, I'm not going to buy another one, but I'm sure it works. Creative Grids is a great product. I don't know why it wouldn't work. Okay, Robin said, what is the difference between NPI silk and DMC? If a pattern calls for DMC, can you use NPI? Yes. NPI silk is just a finer, it will glide through your fabric, it will glide through much easier and not less. So for cross stitch you can use it. You could also use it for embroidery. If I got a Jolly Bar kit, can I starch? It depends if you need the full Jolly Bar. If you need the full Jolly Bar, you can't. So I would look at your pattern. Okay, so I've answered Kara's question. For all the Trimmings mystery quilt, is there enough fabric to use a block lock half square rulers? Yes. What solid fabric is the closest match to lamb's wool linen? Beautiful beige is slightly darker. Who is the designer for the Christmas Sew Along? Jocelyn Ung, and she works for us. What is your favorite brand of sweet tea? Okay, so I don't drink sweet tea, I drink unsweetened tea. So I will tell you that I love Starbucks tea, Chewy's tea, and Chili's tea. That's the best tea anywhere. So whatever that, oh, and then County Line, but that's only in Austin. And Kevin does have a joke, but it's not really a joke, it's actually true. If the tea's not good, I don't want to eat there. So like if we ever go somewhere and the tea is bad, because that's what's in here, it's all I drink. I don't even drink water. Because I figure I drink enough tea that gives me my water. I know that's not 100% healthy. But I do tend to go to restaurants where I like the tea. Yummy Yarn says, I want to make a Bats and Boos with kitty corn using the cream candy corn as the main background and want to use the pink gingham for the bats. Will there be enough contrast? I would put those fabrics next to each other and see what you think. I think it might be a little bit busy. On Sherry McConnell's upcoming quilt along, is it the Sincerely Yours fabric? Yes. And we have the quilt kit for pre-sale. It's called Stitch Pink Together. How different is an 80 compared to 90 top stitch? So I believe a 90 needle is thicker and a 70 needle is thinner and an 80 needle is like in between the two. I have always just used 80-12, but I think a 90 you would use if you're using like a thicker fabric like a linen or something like that. Do I hand sew my binding and do you use the 80/12 needle? So I do hand stitch my binding when I used to do it. Now Gina Tell does it. For binding I use black gold needles from Clover. I need a new quilting mat. What do I suggest? I like the Lori Holt mats because they're cute, and I like the Creative Grids mats because they're gray, because green's my least favorite color. Ulfa mats are great. They've been around a long time, but I don't want green in my sewing room. So I use a combination of Lori Holt's, Creative Grids, and I do use those new tiny mats that are by Fig Tree, and I also use the Kimberly Cut mats for if I need to rotate. I want to make the Peppermint Lane quilt. Would any pre-cuts work? So we have it listed as yardage. You could start with a fat quarter bundle though, and then switch around fabrics if you needed to. On a sawtooth star block, what size should the flying geese be so I don't lose the points? So I would look at your pattern and whatever it says, if it says if it says it needs to be unfinished 2 by 3.5, then that would finish at 1.5 by 3, because it's, you take your unfinished size and cut it that, but you, if you're using like a flying geese paper or ruler, you're going to be looking at the finished size. What does it mean when you say a quilt is on point? I don't have any in here. I'm not looking at all my stack of quilts, or I would show you, but a quilt on point means that your squares go this way, or your blocks go this way, and you have triangles at the ends and on the sides. And that's my least favorite thing to do. I will probably do anything to not do if I have a pattern that's on point, I'll just change it completely and do it not on point. I hate on point. And I don't use the word hate much, but I cannot get that accurate, so I don't do on point. Jennifer struggles with flying geese. Would you recommend triangles on a roll or those block lock rulers? For flying geese, I would either use the It's So Emma foundation paper or the Quilt in a Day ruler. I don't use the block lock rulers for that. Everyone always wants to know your favorites. Maybe add your FQS segment, Kimberly's favorite. So we do have a little section on the blog that does have like a lot of my favorite things. What size is all the trimmings? It's 33 by 38. Am I going to CrimeCon in Las Vegas? No. And the reason why is I love Las Vegas. And I don't need to go there because if I go, I'm going to gamble. So I don't want to go, like if I'm going to go to Las Vegas, I'm going to want to go to a show, like a comedian show, like not a, I love to see comedians and the best comedians go to Vegas. But no, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go. Plus, that's kind of one of the trips that's pretty selfish. So I don't want to be away from my kids that long. So last year when it was in when it was in Austin, it was like, I live in Austin. So I had even told Emma, like, oh, if you want to come and hang out at the hotel with her friend Kaya, because they're like 14, 15. I mean, they can hang out at the hotel. They said no. So I was going to even let them hang out at the hotel, but they didn't want to. Life as a mom, what tea do I order from Starbucks? Okay, so I order black iced tea, extra ice, no water, no sugar. And the Starbucks by my house never makes the tea right. Like the lady this morning was making it, and I was just like, oh my gosh. Like she doesn't, I like it shaken. So if they don't shake it, I will get it and I will shake it. Like put my finger here and just shake it because it doesn't taste the same if it's not shaken. Angela is asking a cross stitch question. If we didn't want to use chalkboard black for the Christmas stitch along, what would I suggest? We can add that to Wednesday's live stream and I can look at some options. I don't know that gray would look good. I'd have to actually put fabric on it. So we'll try to find an alternative. Kimberly, you need to update on what new shows you're watching. Okay. So on Discovery Plus, there is a show called Private Investigator or Sleuths. Oh gosh, my phone is here. Let me look. Discovery Plus. I watched it last night. I watched the whole series. Okay, there's one called Relentless on Discovery ID. That's really good. American Detective with Joe Kenda. Deadly Women. The Devil Made Me Do It. That's good, but that's spooky. Reasonable Doubt. Murder Comes to Town. The Green River Killer. Evil Lives Here. Citizen PI. That's the new one. So I've been watching that. So on YouTube I watch Crime Talk with Scott Reich. Keto and Crime. That's like a super small channel. Duty Ron. He's a cop. Chris McDonough. He can be controversial. Web Sleuths. She's cuckoo pants, so you probably won't like her. That's about it. Oh, and I watch Snapped all the time. I watch there's a new show called Charmed to Death on Oxygen. It's pretty good. and it comes on Saturdays, and I watch Cold Case on Saturdays. So on Saturdays, we don't go to dinner because I have good shows. And Dateline is back. So the Dateline tonight, I'm not sure I'm going to watch it. It involves a case in Austin that Gina Tell was pretty close to. It's actually super disturbing, and I'm not sure if I can do it without just completely sobbing for 2 hours. So I might not watch tonight's because it's super sad. Did I finish the low volume quilt for my sister-in-law? No, but I have a big old stack, and my goal for the end of the year is to stop starting new things and finish old things. So what I have to do is we're going to do a sew along coming up for Lori. I need to finish that. I need to finish my sampler Spree blocks, and then I'm going to, by the end of the year, try to finish my Harry Potter quilt, my sister-in-law's quilt, and the only reason my swirling stars is not done is I don't have any new fabric to use. So I'm trying to wrap up some other stuff, and at the end of the year finish anything I have open. And if it's not, like if I don't have it finished at the end of the year, I'm just going to sell it on eBay half done or something, because I don't have time to have all these. Like, I need some empty drawers. I want to start a pre-cut club. How does it work? Like a jelly roll, layer cake, charm, and Moda. Is that a shipping cost? And all of them. Okay, so each of our pre-cut clubs ships separately. So if you wanted to be in the jelly roll and the layer cake club, they each ship separately and they each have shipping. If you click into the product, it will tell you the shipping cost. What is my favorite brand of cross-stitch thread? I don't really have a favorite. I like all of them for different reasons. If I could do every single project in like NPI, I probably would, because that thread glides through my fabric, and I can actually go much faster. But I like all of them. It's not, I don't know, like with quilting thread, I just use Aurifil, but with cross stitch, I like to use all of them. I think it adds variety too, like it's fun. Chris Chamberlain, if you want to make the quilt more of a lap size, would 2 layer cakes work? Yes, probably, but it's gonna be hard because you can make your rows longer, but you can't really make the length longer unless you do 2 rows. Like, you'd have to make the rows longer and you'd have to make more rows. Can I recommend a dark background other than black for the Christmas along? So I will come up with a different fabric for both the quilt and the cross stitch, and I will show those next week. I don't know how good they'll look though, because it really we use a lot of the white, so it's going to be kind of hard. And you will notice one of the things that we do try to do is we do a lot of free sew alongs. We try to do like navy, black, white, cream. We try to mix up the colors so that they're not all using the same Bella white or the same Kona solid. So we do actually do different backgrounds so that all of our quilts have a different variety of looks, and providing that free content will please a lot of different styles. I got a copy of Winterlude. Thank you for getting it to me quickly. Would you ever consider an antler design quilt along? Okay, I will email myself right now to text Doug and see if he wants to host some type of sew along, and he can host it and I can sew along because I love his patterns. Have I had a chance to work on the Harry Potter quilt? No, but it's going to be done by Christmas. Will I be getting any more of the Christmas fabric that is sold out Christmas morning? I wish I was, but that fabric sold like crazy. I can't even tell you how crazy that fabric sold. Maybe we can convince Mo to reprint it, but it is sold like crazy. I have a couple of packages of 5-inch squares of shirtings. What is a good pattern? Do you treat them the same as a regular cotton? Yes, so shirtings is more the name of more of an 1800s background. I think classic and vintage would probably fit that. I never find out about a quilt along until later. What is best to stay in the loop? I would say follow your favorite stores, which would be Fat Quarter Shop, and I would follow your favorite designers, and your favorite manufacturers on social media, and kind of just watch those pages. Now, some people, I don't use Instagram, I don't use Twitter. Now, Instagram's on my phone, and every now and then a friend of mine will say, oh, I like the picture Emma posted or something, and I'll go look. I don't use TikTok, I don't use Instagram, I use Facebook. And I don't even get on Facebook all the time because a lot of people have lost their minds and lost their ability to be civil, and I don't subject myself to any kind of negativity. Like, if my kids are negative, that's the first thing me and Kevin will be like, snap out, no. Or we'll say, you can go home. You're not going to participate in this family event if you don't get your attitude right. So I'm kind of like that. I don't spend a lot of time on social media because I have to be a mom. I have to drive my kid. Okay, let me give you an example of my weekend, this weekend. I need to leave work early today. Emma has to be at dance from 4:30 to 6:30, but the boys get out of school at 4:10. So there's no way for my nanny to get her to dance and pick up the boys. So I will be taking her to dance. I will be sitting in the parking lot for 2 hours in my car watching true crime because I don't have enough time to drive all the way back home in traffic and then come back to get her. She has dance on Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 5:30. So I will be driving her, picking her up. My boys have basketball on Saturday, all three of them. And my son, one of my sons has decided to play football, and I think he has that Sunday. So it's just, I'm a taxi. It's fun though. I love it. So yeah, my son decided he's not going to do baseball this time. He's going to do basketball and football. So we're going to see how that works out. I don't know. But we do, I will say, all my kids get to pick what they want to do. Emma's schedule is crazy insane. She picked that. I didn't force her to do that. Please don't come at me and say, oh my gosh, she's da da da. She wants to do dance. Like, she loves it. She has so much fun. And I've told her she wants to be like a lawyer, or she wants to do like, basically that child is going to have a second degree. I can already tell you based on what she wants to do and the stuff she's interested in. So I told her, I said, me and your father have saved enough money to send you to 1 degree. So if you want to get a master's degree, then you need to get your undergraduate paid for. And lots of her friends have gotten that done. She has a friend that got full ride dance scholarship to Stanford. One of her friends has a scholarship to go to UT to be on the pom team. So I've told her, you've got to use your talents to get your undergrad paid for so that you can go get your master's or whatever you want to do. Denise, can you use 50 weight in the bobbin and 80 weight on the top when appliquing? Yes, I think so. I think you have to kind of adjust your tension when you do that. Where did you get the mug? I got it at Dick's Sporting Goods. It's like $50 though. And Kevin bought me this separate for Christmas. So I have a couple of these. They're super expensive also. So I love my Yetis though because it stays cold all day. I love my Yetis. I can't live without them. Do I ever worry about bugs because of starching because I don't wash? I've never had an issue. I will say I keep a pretty clean house. So that might have something to do with it. I mean, yeah. Had a beloved quilt ruined by the sun from the windows. Took gallery glass, Hobby Lobby, and painted the windows, then pounded them with slipping brush, controls the sun, provides privacy, and translucent windows. Good. What Aurifil should I use for hand quilting? You could use our floss, which is super thick, to get a super thick look. For hand quilting, I would probably do 50 or 80. I'm not a expert in that though, so you might be asking the wrong person. Pokey Little Pineapple, will you do a holiday gift guide for quilters like you did last year? Probably. Kevin actually does that, and we're working on something else right now that you guys are going to love. A lot of you are going to be very happy with it, so if that's wrapped up by then yes, but if not, then maybe no, but probably. Do I ever pre-wash Aida cloth? No. Is there a difference between the colors of the Eliso irons? I like the yellow. Yes. So I bought the pink one once and I hated it. I brought it to work and said, y'all use it. I think it times out quicker. so it doesn't stay as hot as long, and it just jumped funny. I didn't like it. And I'm kind of a creature of habit. So yeah, so for me to change my nail polish, it's kind of like a big deal. Maybe I'm having a midlife crisis or something. Is there a difference between the colors? Okay, I answered that. Is there enough fabrics in the July Sew Sampler Box Christmas Fat 8 to do the Christmas sew along? I don't know. You're not gonna have as much variety, but I don't know the answer. Am I planning any guests for Friday live streams? Yes, I have two planned for October. Debbie, have I tried fruit water? My boss made it for work, fruit, mint, and tons of ice and fill with water. No, I haven't, but I did try Smart Water, and I actually really like it, so I was gonna order some. And they come in 33-ounce bottles, and then drink 2 of them a day. I was thinking about that. Can I include Flying Geese paper with the Autumn Wonderland kit or as an add-on? The Autumn Wonderland kit is set, so whatever it is, it's already set because we're cutting those. So you probably have to just order those separately. I don't even know if it includes it. Yvonne, what is the best way to cut long borders when you're cutting lengthwise so they don't bow? The best way to cut is to make sure it's ironed, there's no wrinkles, and that when you fold it, you keep your folds the same degree here and here, and keep your salvages straight. We did show it on the very last Socialites live stream, cutting length of fabric, so just be very careful. Do you make any of the cave patterns with the quarterly bundles? Personally, no. We have a designer here named Crystal. She loves to design them and make them, so they're kind of like hers. Is all the trimming beginner friendly? Actually, it is. It's very beginner friendly. I have a new Juki 2010 Q. The manual says to oil every time you use it. That seems so much. Do I oil it often? I used to not, but I have been. But I do it like once a month. If I did it every project, it'd be like twice a week. How would you make it bigger? Do more blocks or make the blocks bigger? It's not going to be easy to make the blocks bigger. So you would have to make more blocks. When will the Christmas box come out? I don't know yet. Not everything is here. What batting does my long arm quilter use? We use Quilter's Dream 80/20. Why can't you starch jelly rolls or charm packs? You can actually starch jelly rolls because you have a 2.5-inch width. It will shrink across the length, not the width, so you can starch a jelly roll. If you starch a charm pack, it's going to come out about 4.5 by 5. So you can do that if you need a smaller size. If you starch a layer cake, it's going to end up about 9.5 by 10. So you just have to factor in that your fabric shrinks 1/2 inch one direction. Will I be at Houston Quilt Market? No. We have decided not to go. And the reason why is it is Saturday, Sunday, Monday. My kids are very active in sports. I'm not missing it. Robert Kaufman's not going. None of the Jaftex companies are going. A ton of companies are not going. So I just decided that if they're not going, I'm not going. What about the dinosaur quilt? Yep, that's going to be done by Christmas. So the dinosaur quilt's going to be done by Christmas. Harry Potter's going to be done. I'm trying to wrap up a lot of the stuff. Because if I show you stuff on this table, I actually do it. Like, I don't have a secret sewer back. I wish I did. You know, helping me. Sometimes I do have one that will help me put the quilts together. But these blocks I'm showing you, it's all me. So, what was the question that I'm answering? So I am going to do those. I kind of have to do work before personal. How do I find your items on eBay or Etsy? Okay, so I haven't done that in years. If I do it, I'll show y'all. I probably couldn't do that now. I did that back when I didn't have a live stream. I don't think I could do that now because y'all would all buy and spend too much money on it. Is the August 20th expiration on side of the inside box mean you can still order today? Yes, you can order through August 20th at midnight Central Time. Am I going to sell the white cute frames that I find in some of your cross stitches? Yes, when they ship my order. So it's that's like run by just two people, a wife and a husband. So we order them and we get them sometimes a year later. So we do sell them when we can get them, but it's, you have to remember it's more of a boutique, small house, small company doing it. So, we just get our orders when we can. Lamb's wool linen is like which solid quilting fabric? Oh, I have no idea. That's two totally different things. I have no idea. The only difference between yellow and the blue Olfa ergonomic cutters is the color. Yes, correct. Is there a pattern for the Harry Potter quilt? Yes, it is a free pattern on a blog, and the blog is Seriously, I Think I Need Stitches. So just Google Seriously, I Think I Need Stitches Harry Potter free quilt. It'll pop up. For the sew by row hand stitching, did you stitch them before giving it the rows? Okay. On the sew by row, there's hand stitching. Did I stitch it before I put the rows together? No, because I should have and I couldn't figure it out, but I ended up doing that on the sewing machine. So I did that with my rows, but it wasn't hard. Am I going to Garden of Quilts? This year, I'm not. It conflicts with one of my daughter's dance things. And I don't miss anything dance. Like, I don't know how, like, when in the 4 years when she's done, I don't know. I know what I'm going to do. And then she told me yesterday she might join the drill team. And I was like, oh, that'll be different, but okay. I'm like, whatever you want to do. So she's like, well, whatever. Does my hubby take them to practices? Oh, yeah. So we go together. So I usually drop her off at dance. He picks her up, or vice versa. But the boys' stuff, he usually takes them rather than me, or I go and ride in the car with him. So, oh, yeah, he's definitely dad of the year. He does all the stuff. Will a new Lori book stand come out? Yes, but it will be a while. When cutting sashing, do I cut wider or exact? When I do sashing, I do it exact. Is there a spooky box this year? Yes, soon. And I want to give a big thank you to, Piggy wants to thank Valeria Bauer and Holly Martin. Thank you for the super chats. You totally didn't have to do that. And thank you to our new YouTube members, Krista Bell, Amy Dinner, and Diana Rosenthal. And I've had a lot of fun with you guys sitting and chatting. Did I miss the response about Autumn Woodland? Is there an idea when it will be ready? Autumn Wonderland, the reason it's taking a long time is we are cutting every single month as a block of the month, and it takes us a ton of time. If I had to redo that, I would have just packaged that as a kit. So it is here, but because we have so much stuff to cut, it's just taking a long time. But hopefully soon. I know we're over halfway done. And Nocturnal, I don't know the answer. Will I be stocking the My Happy Place extra trim items? Yes. Everything that is Lori Holt is always stocked at Fat Quarter Shop. So you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you next Friday. Bye.